and wrap up with the introduction and dive into the topic of influence. I want to give you this idea that, you know, if you think about Michelle Obama or Sheryl Sandberg or even Angela Merkel, okay, see if we have a couple of us based in Germany, well, we all have been wishing to be as inspirational and motivate the people around us. But there is you know, if you think about Michelle Obama, she's a strong education advocate. The other one is fighting for women to lean in. And the other, they just received 6 minutes non-stop applause when she stepped down from the leadership seat of her own country. Yes, I'm talking about Angela Merkel. So their vision and life purpose are very, very different. Yet they have one common trait, and they have something in common. They are all very influential figures. So influence is power. And no matter who you are, where you work, and what your professional goals are, achieving more influence in the workplace is critical for success. It's critical to build and maintain trust to guide employees through risk and disruption. We just saw that, you know, hands-on 2021, yeah, risk and disruption. Or to recognize and cultivate the power of your network when you create change, or to move teams and important initiatives forward. At the end of the day, influence and understanding how influence function has countless advantages. Let's carry on now. Thank you. Anyway, so we saw that, you know, influence is not just authority, and it's authority is one type of influence. Of course, you may think about your mom. We know when you were little and when she was saying to you, well, you know, you can only go and watch TV or go and play with your friends unless you finish your homeworks. That's influencing by authority. But in your position right now, you might be leading a team or a project. Authority is not going to get you exactly where you want to go. So let's think about what is influence now. And I would like to invite you to chat and use the chat and tell me what you think is influence. Let's have a look. I'm just going to open up the chat and read you guys. What is influence for you? I know there is the dictionary idea that you can just pick it up, but just deep down, what, you know, so I'm just letting everyone a bit of time. What is influence for you? What does it mean? I mean, because if you're joining, you must have like a burning desire to really understand what is influence. We have some more people joining us. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So Ria, okay, so Jessica, having an impact on others. Marwa, influence is how you make an effect on people. Yes, Ria as well. D, how you make another person feel. Yasmin, be able to show the vision to the team, colleagues. Absolutely, Irina. Influence means convincing people on your cause and getting them excited to work with you. Marianne, ability to change a preconception. So just changing the idea, influencing on how people are thinking. Well, I tell you what, you are all right. And every single item that you mentioned is correct. Now, let me give you the dictionary, the Wikipedia information on influence. So it says that it's the power, the capacity to have an effect on the character, a development, a behavior of someone or something, or it's the effect itself. Now, why understanding the principles of influence is important to you? Well, we all know and experience leadership by authority, and that's one type of influence. Or you might have been sold something you didn't want in the first place. Now, I briefly tell you a story that happened to me. I lived in London with the guy who is now my, you know, husband and father of two teenage girls, and I started running in London. And I thought, well, I should invest in good running shoes. So we went to a store. It was only running shoes you can buy there. I tried a pair. And then the sales assistant asked me if I could just run up and down the street to see, if the pronation, supination of the feet was correct, blah, blah, blah. So I thought, okay, I've got to run. I know that somebody is watching. So I really pay attention how I run. I run, I don't know, 50 meters or whatever. Came back and the guy just said to me, wow, you have such a beautiful running style. My boyfriend at the time, husband, he was rolling on the floor because he knew that being flattered on my running style. And guess what? I bought 2 pairs and they gave 2 pairs of shoes to the guy. So that's, that's influencing. We have to recognize this is a type of influence, okay? So now it's time to kill the elephant in the virtual room. There is no difference between manipulation and influence. Ha! Yeah, the principles are the same. However, there is actually quite a strong difference. The purpose is different. So if you understand the principle of influence, then you will be able to use them, recognize them, and be more efficient in reaching your purpose or protecting you from being manipulated. So if one day, you want to buy a pair of shoes and somebody tells you, wow, you've got such a beautiful running style. I wish for you it was true. For me, it was definitely not true. It was definitely trying to find, the ego button that he pressed successfully. So anyway, now I would like to invite you to watch a little video on the topic of powerful women, because I told you that influence is power, and I definitely want to make that link. Hopla, give me 2 seconds. I'm just going to upload the video. Share and play.
Is knowing who you are, what you have to say, and using your voice as a tool in the world. I think no matter where you sit in that world. And I don't think that power is given to you. I think that you're born with power, and I think that our job is to unlock it.
Power for me is really about being able to take people on a journey and reach an outcome. You can have people as CEO who are not effective, and when you get underneath, it's often because they weren't able to bring people along the journey, translate the vision, and bring them together to execute to an outcome.
I think there's a lot of power in understanding why you're doing something. And I'm not the first to say that. I have to give props to Oprah, that's what I learned. But there's a lot of power in knowing your intent and knowing your why.
You have to don a suit of armor because you're going into the ring, and they will try to minimize every accomplishment that you have. And I always say to people, know your power.
Power is living your life on your own terms, how you want to, in a way that you feel good about. It's a short period of time we're here. There's a lot of good things to do. I really try to think more about the things I said yes to and making the most of them than spend any time on the no things, the things that passed, or I should have done that, or I didn't do that, and just focus on the things that I do have and the things that I have an opportunity to make something with. And that feels really powerful.
For me, power is much more about just this inherent feeling that you are worthy and entitled to the things that your work and efforts bring to you. And in that sense, I certainly feel powerful.
Power is having a platform and a voice, and being able to inspire and influence and also create change.
I think it's how you touch people's lives. So for me, being a leader is how do you really make an impact on whatever you choose to do. It can be an industry, it can be a person, one single person, but do something meaningful, not just for the sake of a certain outcome, for the sake of doing something that would make someone happy, have a great impact.
The typical forget to unmute the button. Absolutely. So let me just, Hopla. Yes, that's it. Okay, we are back on. I'm just organizing my screens. Wonderful. Now I've got a question for you. I've got a question for you. Who is your role model on the topic of influence? And I'm going to leave you a little bit of time to think about it, because there is definitely a lot of thinking behind it. Influence is something that we all want. But think about who is your role model on the topic of influence. Marwa, do you want to unmute yourself and share your finding with us?
I think for me, since I have been living in Germany for 12 years, actually, for me, Chancellor Angela Merkel is a real role model of influence. She had influenced the whole EU region in many decisions and many circumstances, especially within the COVID situation that's ongoing at the current time. So how she deals with the situations on different perspectives, and how she went through the diplomatic way of influencing others to go for certain decisions and certain direction, that's really, I think, a big role model for me and for different people I know as well.
And she's got, and thank you very much, Marwa, for sharing that with us. And what's interesting as well about Angela Merkel is that she's not using authority. She's just using logic most of the time.
Exactly, especially she's coming from a physics background. So the way she thinks and the way she's dealing with it is on a very scientific base, and at the same time taking humanity into consideration.
Absolutely. So she's got like a very nurturing, she cares. You can just see that she cares about the people. There was one of the speech she gave, you know, when she was just like, it doesn't matter. We need to be careful. We need, and just even the tone of her voice. And I understand a little bit of German, and German is not necessarily a really soft language like Italian or Spanish. German is quite guttural, and it's quite an authoritarian language to the European ears. But it was just, she was really speaking like a nurturing mother. It was really interesting. Thank you very much, Marwa, for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
Ria, who is saying that you have no role models, but you want to understand so you don't get caught being manipulated. You are very smart, Ria. Yasmin, I work in work situation. My first line manager, he shared honest feedback, asking for a lot, but at the same time supporting when asked and always giving you the opportunity to grow. That's very important. Yes, you will receive feedback. Yes, this person might let you know in a very direct way what needs to change or what needs to improve, but you feel that this person, you know, he has your back. If anything happens, you can just rely on that person. And Yurcel, Ataturk found a solution every time when he faced difficulties. Yeah, okay. So basically you want to, the feeling behind, okay, the interpretation I will have behind that comment, Yurcel, is that you want someone to be competent. And with competence, then it's easier, with proven competence, then it's easier to actually, that's how you gain the respect. That's how you, you get people to follow you. Yes. And Amrapali, my father has been a great influence in my life, excuse me, helping me with his experience on life skills. Yes, that's really, really strong. When within the family we have strong role models of influence, that's fantastic, because that's so much easier to grow. Wonderful. Anybody else who wants to share the why, because that's, you know, what is it that they do? So Amrapali, if you want to put your microphone on, what is it that your father does that, you know, made him as a role model on the topic of influence?
Hi everybody, Amrapali.
Hi Amrapali, welcome.
Yeah, thanks Isai. So I was talking about life skills. So now you can see resilience has been a very major skill which everybody should adapt in this unprecedented pandemic. So
Absolutely.
what I have gained from is resilience, means how you should cope with things, how you should be persistent, how you should not never give up on any problem. So that has been inculcated in my lifestyle, in my ways of doing work. So that has been a great influence from him. And he has always been a hardworking person. So, and that I have learned from him, how I can do hard work and learn new things and work towards my success. So that has been a great influence from him.
Happily, you shared with us something so precious. Basically, your dad gave you the gift of resilience, and it
Yes.
is truly a gift. It's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with us. Because if you read the comment that Dee shared with us, you know, she went through hardship, and resilience is not something you learn on the school benches. Yet,
Yeah.
you know that at some point in your life, you're going to need to go. You need to develop that grit and how to bounce forward. I mean, I just gave now a year and a half ago a talk about resilience, about my
Yeah.
personal journey as well with resilience and how I learned it, and that's something as well that is absolutely. So basically, when somebody can gift you with a strong value, and you also mentioned the work ethics of your dad as well, and that's something I relate to, but you'll know later on why. It's definitely something strong, and then we have a lot of respect for those people. Beautiful. Thank you so much for unmuting and sharing that with us, Amrapali.
Yeah. Thank you, Cecile. Thank you.
That's great. Okay. And okay, thank you, Dee. Yes, so Dee is sharing my keynote. Thank you. And Prof. Sue Black, she shares the problem that she's faced and raises others up with her. That's wonderful. That's great. Absolutely. It's basically the people that will influence us are, in general, people that we respect, people that want to help others, and that are not, you know, motivated by greed and ego, usually. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing that. So now I want to move on to the second part of this workshop, which is the content. And that's where I'm going to give you the way I understand resilience, influence. We need to do another workshop on resilience. I think that would be fun. But anyway, so why understanding the mechanism of influence are important, and to be able to give you an understanding on the mechanism of influence, I'm going to go through the basic human needs, why it's important to have those three items in mind, the 6 principles of influence, but also the communication tools. And you are going to need that, especially for the end of for the challenge that are waiting for you. But it's a fun challenge, don't you worry. So what we know is to understand the mechanism of influence is important because it's a way of having more career opportunities, to build cohesive teams, to set the circumstances for your colleagues, your bosses, to say yes, simply to say yes to your project, your ideas, your proposal. So think about it as an influential quotient, okay? A new IQ. And that's the one you need to pay attention to, because ultimately this will contribute in a greater proportion to your success than your intelligent quotient. Ooh, I'm saying that to women's engineer, you know, but it's true. You are all extremely smart ladies. The influential quotient will make the difference in the long term. So in every case, it's very crucial for you to understand the full range of influence techniques, when you can use them, how, with whom, and that's a way of building up your power base. So once you have the capacity to be influential, you can sharpen your skills and that you can influence people effectively. Now I have the question for you. I'm a public speaking professional. Why should you believe me? I've got a prepared answer, by the way, for that, okay? I started my career when I was young, much younger than now, I'm 48, but I was just in my early 20s, and I was in sales. In sales, you know straight away if you influence people or not. It's very black and white. It's binary. You either make the contract, you either make the sale, or you don't. And I guess I started to fail at an epic level. I think within the first 3 months of my sales experience, my total turnover was 50 UK pound, which is not even like 30, I think it's like $35. So it's a fail. Okay. But I had a really candid manager who gave me another chance, and he asked me to follow the salespeople. And I come back then to the ethical part. And I was really lucky to be able to shadow people and salespeople that had really, really high integrity and work ethics. And I looked at how they did it and I applied it. And basically that led me to be the salesperson, the best salesperson globally when I was selling financial databases on Wall Street in the city. And trust me, selling financial databases is not sexy. It's just numbers. So I did manage to sell that, and I basically, it worked very well. So my career led me to very different industry and part of the world. But one thing which was consistent was putting in practice influential principles to sell, to buy, to convince, and to motivate as well. And on top of that, I then formalized my knowledge on the influencing topic by reading the standards from the past, the present, and of course, the future trends on influencing as well. So everything you're about to hear is backed up by many years of research in terms of psychological research or social science. Now, let's move on to the first part of the content, which is what we need to pay attention to in terms of basic human needs. And I'm going to unravel the 3 topics I'm going to touch base on. When dealing with people, you are not dealing with creatures of logic. You're dealing with creatures of emotion. We are filled with prejudices, and we're motivated by pride and vanity. Very easy to realize that when you do a group pictures, everyone rushes to see the picture, not to see how your friend looks like, but if you look good on that group picture, okay? So that's who we are. Now, let me give you a little, okay? You see that, oh, you see that piece of paper? When we give criticism to people, this is what happens. This is what happened to their self-confidence. The nature of the paper does not change, but it leaves indents and creases, and is the same but in much worse condition. So if you need to criticize, if you want some people to change, you have to give them constructive feedback. And then if you give I wish I could be in the same room as you. It would be so much better than over the screen, because I'm going to make the if low, not very far, but anyway. So when you give constructive feedback, it's just a way for us not to forget this golden rule. Everyone makes mistakes, and mistakes are necessary tools for wisdom and growth. And that's when, instead of criticism, we need to use constructive feedback. So if you want to be influential, instead of condemning people, understand them and figure out why they do what they do, because it's a lot more profitable and intriguing than criticism. And it breeds sympathy, tolerance, and kindness. And that's an excellent base for influence. The second item is make them feel important. You can go, and I'm sure perhaps some of you have been going on detox for a couple of days, where you just don't eat for a couple of days, and you can fast very easily for 5 or 6 days, but your hunger for appreciation is so big that you won't be able to go 6 days without feeding your self-esteem. Now, the deepest principle of human nature is a craving to be appreciated. And the danger is when we take people for granted. And nothing pleases more than someone interested and approval. So, you know, when you show honest appreciation, it gets results. Because if you avoid that, you know, it's not going to work out. There is a story that was mentioned in the book written by Dale Carnegie on the how to influence and how to make friends. And he was mentioning the story of a woman who is feeding farmers every night. And one day the farmers come back at the dining table and all they find in their plate is actually hay, you know, the food of the horses. And of course, there was an uproar in the canteen there. And the old lady who's been cooking for them for like years and years, she said, you know what, when I feed the animals, I get the recognition from them. You are worse than animal. Never one of you told me that if my cooking was good or not. So today you will get some hay. And then, of course, the day after she started to cook, and the appreciation, you know, the comments were just, you know, flowing very easily. But people will forget what you say, but they will never forget how you make them feel. This is actually a say from Maya Angelou. But if you want to be influential, be seen as a person who is fair and give appraisals. People around you, you will be more inclined to listen to you. Okay, so those are the basic human needs. We don't like to receive criticism, and we like to receive appraisal and be appreciated for what we do. And there is another thing, another point I want to make as well. Pay attention to what matters to the people that you are working with. A very simple analogy is if you are going fishing, you will probably select the bait according to the type of fish you want to catch. And let me take another wilder guess, is that whatever you're going to use as a bait for the fish is not your preferred food. Okay, so the only way on earth to influence people is to talk about or present about what is important to them, and talk about what they want and show them how to get it. Okay, so if tomorrow you need to persuade, you need to influence somebody to do something, before you speak, pause and ask yourself, how can I make this person want to do that project? I'm sure you've been in a situation where you needed to recruit someone. When you look at a CV, you just scan through, there is a skill you're missing in your team, and you're basically looking at the skill that is mentioned very in a very obvious manner on the CV or the resume of somebody else. So you have to find, you have to find that angle. You have to see what matters to them. So if you want to be influential, be inspiring by always taking at heart what is important to the people you want to influence. And that's the first part of the content. Do we have any questions before I move on to the 6 principles of influence? Is that all right? Can you just give me a quick emoji to see if we still have everyone? Because it's Saturday. I mean, I don't know, I just had lunch, but I had a double coffee. So I just want to make sure that no one is lost. It's all good. Thank you, Yasmin. Thank you, Yuxel. Oh, wonderful. Irina as well. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Jessica. Betul, thank you. That's great. Thank you for all the emojis. I feel the love. It's wonderful. Okay, so let's move on now to something that has been proven and studied. And by the way, you will receive a little cheat sheet at the end. I will forward it to a quick PDF where you will have all the main information of everything that is being said. And for this one, it's basically something that was studied further by Robert Cialdini. So Robert Cialdini is the expert in terms of social science and psychology on the shortcuts we're using in our brain to influence people. And wherever you are in the world, those shortcuts will work. It doesn't matter which culture, it doesn't matter which ethnicity you're from, it doesn't matter where you stand in the world or how old you are, those principles are working. So the first one is the principle of liking. The principle of liking is we most prefer to say yes to the request of someone we know and like. That's quite easy. And this simple rule is used in hundreds of ways by total strangers. Think about the Tupperware way of, or Avon. I think in the US you had Avon. So people invite you and they create like little parties where they present product. You say yes and you're most likely to participate because you know the person and you like them. The second is authority. Yes, of course, authority. Somebody who has a way of retaliation. Yes, of course, you're going to listen. The third one is the scarcity. And the scarcity is basically the principle trades on our weaknesses for shortcuts. And also the second one is like if an opportunity becomes less available, we will lose freedom. So, you know, this training is at 199 US dollar or euros for 5 minutes. In 5 minutes, the promotion will be gone. I'm sure you've already used or you came across that kind of promotion. And that's basically using the principle of scarcity. Reciprocation. I rub you back. Well, later on, I am expecting you to rub my back. Okay, it's just an exchange. It's, you know, it's we feel like an honored sense of obligation. And if you think about it, before currency was available, it was just an exchange of services. So this is really an old way of using influences. Another one as well, which is commitment. So if you can get someone to make a commitment, even better, a commitment in public, you will have set the stage for an automatic consistency with that earlier commitment. So once a stand is taken, there's a natural tendency to behave in ways that, you know, with the constant with the stand. So for instance, you go to the beach, you forget, you set yourself up, it's nightly put, you know, the towels, but you forgot your sunblock in the car, but you've got some belongings there, but you don't want to, you know, pack everything and come back. So you turn around to your to the neighbor and say, hey, Mr. or Mrs., I'm terribly sorry, do you mind just to keep an eye on my belongings? I just need to pick up something in my car, I'll be back in 2 minutes. If the person says yes, you have 80% chance that they will comply. That's what it means, commitment. Okay. And then the last one is the social proof. It's basically we have a tendency, so when somebody does something, if a group does something, we're more likely to follow. So that's why some of the behavior becomes a bit funny when you have demonstration, when there is violence starting, we think it's okay to also behave in the wrong way. So be aware that principle of influence, it could work on a positive way, but also in a negative way. So in the cheat sheet, you will have access as well to a video, a quick video that summarizes all those principles. Do we have any questions? Okay, Jasmine, I keep you in mind for later on about the difference between leadership and authenticity. Okay, all right, so let's carry on. Okay, and we are now moving to the communication tools, and I want to give them to you right now. So here what they are, the communication tools that we have available to set the circumstances for the people to follow us. First of all, when you talk, and I'm going to take this as a meeting talk or a one-on-one talk, or even, you know, a board meeting talk, limit what you have to say to one message on one message only. There was this exercise done on Steve Jobs, who absolutely wanted to put 5 different messages on a 30 seconds advertisement advertisement video. And somebody in the creative team threw 5 balls of paper at him and said, "You caught none when I throw all the balls at you." Because that's the analogy of a bad advertisement. But if I pick up 1 ball of paper and ask you to grab it, you will be able to do so. So think about your presentation, your talk, your chat, the point you need to come across as an advertisement, as something that you've got to sell. So be simple. One message only. The second item is behind the intention. It's planning the impact of what you want to say. Because if you plan your impact, it's more likely that you will be able to go there. And we talk either to inform, or we talk to make people feel. TEDx talk, they're all about emotions. And sometimes when we pitch, for instance, we talk to change people, and so they can go into an action mode. So think about when I stop talking, what is it that I want my audience to do, or to know, or to feel? Right now, today, it's about doing. It's about doing and learning. Then we have another items that we need to be aware of is finding the right elements of content. Aristotle and Socrates used to talk about ethos, logos, and pathos. It's the type of content that will help your credibility, the type of content that will create emotions, and the last type of content that is logic, relatable, scientifically proven. And you need to weave and find the right balance, but bring in all those elements of content within your presentation. Then you've got persuasion, is setting and laying out, all the circumstances before you actually ask for something. And the 3 yeses I wanted to mention as well. The 3 yeses is something that Socrates was using to unravel the different, to prove to his philosophical enemies that they were wrong. All Socrates was doing was ask questions. And the only answer to those questions were yes. And this way, it was basically pulling people into a different mindset. And I'm sure you might have been, I don't know, Tony Robbins. You know Tony Robbins, right? And every time he wants the big people, his crowd to do something, he will just, start something like, "Hey, do you want to be financially independent? Yes. Do you want to be worry-free about your future? Yes. Do you want to live the life you deserve? Yes, right. Sign the contract here." And because you set people in motion, in positive motion, with questions, a series of 3 questions that are, yes, it's very likely that you will have their agreement, when you ask the final question. And the last, but not the least, because this is the preparation to the challenge. And this is coming straight from Athens and the temples and the word, the persuasion of the rhetoric persuasion. And this is basically how you persuade people. And that's a structure I would like you to learn, practice, and eventually master. And that's what your challenge is going to be about. So if you have the possibility, I'm just going to do something to help you. And I'm going to put that into the chat box. So imagine you are trying to convince a project manager, the board, or whoever is working with you who is in a position of power, and they have the possibility or not the possibility to say yes to your project. I want you to try to use this persuading structure, where first you need to arouse interest. Second, pose a problem that needs a solution. You offer your solution, then the benefits to your solutions and only the benefits, and then you have a call to action. Let me give you an example. Everyone wants to know about how to influence people. Nowadays, having a yes or a no makes a huge difference to be visible or not within a company. The solution I offer is just to give you all the information you need to become influential. The benefits, it's easy. It's a short workshop, just 90 minutes of your time on a Saturday, where you will get the theory, some content, and also some practice to really understand the dynamic of influencing. So all you have to do is click on the button and join the SWE workshop, how to understand the principle of influences. Okay? I've just used this persuasion technique. Now, copy and paste, if you may, what I put in the chat box to keep in mind this structure, because the challenge, your challenge, comes now. So here's your challenge, ladies. You have to complete a project, okay? And the deadline is Monday morning, 8 o'clock. But right now it's Friday afternoon. And unless your team and you work through the weekend, the project will not be completed and the consequences will be dire. How do you persuade your team to work extra hours at no extra paid working hours? That's the challenge you're facing. And I would like you to prepare for the next 5 minutes using the structure of persuasion that you will find in the chat room. Try to find a little dialogue or monologue, actually, that you will be giving to your team to persuade them, to influence them to work extra hours over the weekend at no extra pay, but you need them. Welcome back, everybody. So first of all, let me ask you a question, ladies, about the exercise. Were you convinced by what you've heard? Would you have worked extra time without being paid from what, from the way people were using the arguments?
We had some good discussions about, also emphasizing maybe the social aspect. Irina gave a good example of, hey, why don't we meet, on a weekend, we work together and we order, I think it was pizza. So it's, yeah, you kind of make everyone really feel needed and kind of sitting in the same boat.
Absolutely. Were there at any point in some of the rooms you were in, did the person were asking the others to work for them included themselves or excluded themselves from working? Or was it just, very much team orientated, or were some people trying to say, well, you work and then I'll go on weekends, or not? That happens. That happened to me in one of my bosses, so that's why I'm mentioning that exercise or that scenario. So Marwa is sharing something with us. All included. Okay, so you basically used as a group effort, and you did not, as a team leader, dissociated yourself from the effort. Okay,
sure. So we have to be like, because it's the family and friends time over the weekend, so we have all to contribute and share the same thing over the weekend, so that we don't feel that anyone is ruining the other's life. So we are all in the same boat. Let's put it this way.
That's nice. Let me ask you a question as well, ladies. Was this structure useful, or were you already instinctively using something similar when you had to ask for something or convince or persuade?
Hey, it's Jessica.
Yes, go ahead, Jessica.
An example I shared, I was earlier in my career, and I used some of these without know about these principles, but for sure it's always better to have like a structure, because once you advance in your and in a high levels in the company and with the customers. So when you have to convince the own company, maybe it's easier, but when you have to convince your customers on something, it's like more complicated, and this structure for sure will help a lot on this.
Yeah, thank you, Jessica, for sharing that with us. And what I would add to your comment as well is sometimes having a structure removes the emotional, the emotions that we might have. Sometimes, I mean, I don't know about you, but when I was working in a corporate environment, there were times where I needed to persuade or ask someone something, but I was not entirely confident that I could reach or get what I wanted. And with the rhetoric and with like public speaking structure, it takes away the emotional, and you go, okay, I just follow 1, 2, 3, step 1, 2, 3, and somehow it makes it easier. I mean, I don't know if it's something that you experience, but it's kind of it's a template that is reassuring, that I felt reassuring. Whether it works or not, it doesn't matter. At least, you put the argument one after the other in a logical way. So, I mean, I don't know if some of you have been sharing that kind of feeling where you need some sort of, I don't know, a reassurance factor.
Yeah, I like to have the different steps. And what I particularly liked was the first point, to get the interest. Because typically we would directly start with what you want, but somebody might be working on something, but you really need to catch their attention first. And if they're interested, it's way easier to do it. So I actually like these different steps.
Yeah, the arousing interest, trying to find the attention grabber.
Exactly, yes. I mean, everybody is so busy today, so I think it's important.
I know. So what was your attention grabber, Irina? Would you like to share that with us?
Well, I mean, I had this example of a project that is really important to the management. So I started with like, wouldn't it be amazing if we could finish a project on time? We've seen so many others not doing it, and what it would actually mean for the management and the strategy of the company to really put the bigger picture on it, and not just the project itself.
Or starting with mentioning, bonus time is in 3 weeks' time. What if? What are the consequences if we do not finish this project on your bonus? So you're playing as well with some of the items I mentioned earlier. Look at what is important for the people you're talking to, and show them how you can get it. I mean, I know that the bonus is money matter, and I said that you couldn't get paid extra hours, but bonus is not, it's something that is calculated on the behavior. I mean, there are so many ways of calculating the bonus, but you're right, Irina. I completely agree with you. You need to grab the attention. Once you have the attention, it's easier, because they are like in a listening mode. And then if it's logical, again, it's most likely that they would say yes. There's no guarantee that they will say yes, but it's most likely. But it's already better than 50-50. We're changing the statistics already. Anybody else who wants to share their experience on that specific exercise?
I would like to add my opinion actually. It just arised to my mind. Instead of listing many benefits, I will let the teams should decide the benefits.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's really important.
So you let them find out just by, so how do you do it? You just ask them questions, or how do you prompt them to finding the benefits, the benefits for themselves, Yüksel?
Actually, I explained to my friends. I said that there was a method, three innovative thinking methods. I can use it in order to define the benefits or solution of the problems. I will teach to the team, and then they would arise their ideas actually.
So it's a much more participative strategy to influence. Yeah, rather than just words. Absolutely. That's very powerful. Because if people find their own benefits on their own, then they convince, it's like auto persuasion principle.
Definitely. Absolutely.
Who were, before I wrap up, there was somebody who mentioned something about leadership and authenticity. I can't remember who it was. Let me go back to the chat, because I said that I will come back to it, but we have a bit of time. Okay, so it was Yasmin. I don't know if we still have Yasmin with us.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, yeah. So elaborate a bit about the difference between leadership and authenticity. So leadership is a task, and also a managerial trait, okay, where you lead people to do something. It could be a manager, but it could, you don't have to have a job title to be in position of leadership. Some people have natural leadership. Some people will just naturally motivate, influence, persuade people to do something. So that's two things to differentiate. And so leadership is really a character trait, and we ask everyone now to be either leading themselves or a team. And the authenticity, I would say, is a style of leadership. It's a style of management. Or did you have anything else in mind, Yasmin?
Just because you were talking about, leadership and manipulating people. For me, sometimes leadership can have a little bit of flavor of not being authentic.
Yeah. Okay, so basically what you see in, authenticity is a massive, massive topic that will require a lot of time. But unless you're being seen as authentic, there will be a little gap. There will be a trust gap that's going to be built up. So every people in Europe anyway, in leadership position are trying to be an authentic leader. But to be able to be an authentic leader, you need to make sure that what you do is aligned with your values, your purpose, your passion, and your skills. And the problem is a lot of people now in corporation, there might be like some discrepancies, especially in terms of their values. So how can you be authentic in an environment that does not support your values? It will be very difficult. Am I answering your question, Yasmin?
Yeah, I think it gives good input for thought. I agree. I mean, yeah. It's probably a topic on its own.
It's a topic on its own. But anyway, we're past the time, so let me just simply, time to wrap up the session. What I wanted to say was, first of all, thank you very much for spending 90 minutes of your Saturday with us. You are now equipped to influence more and work your way through your purpose better, of course. So, you are now, ladies, ready to be the next Michelle Obama or the next Sheryl Sandberg. You have, the key to successful leadership today is speaking and communicating with influence. So you were exposed to a lot of information. Bear in mind that I've just sent a document to Dee. She's going to forward the cheat sheets, of today. Yes, whatever was said today was not rocket science. It was just a mere reminders, or simply reframed within the theme of influence, and bring the tools and the attitude on top of your influencing toolbox. Now, to set the circumstances for your audience, for the people, your team, to say yes and follow you, you learn that you need to understand and apply the fundamentals of human beings, understand as well the principle, the 6 principles of influence, and also integrate some of the daily communication points and presentation that I gave you. So once you're aware of it, it is your responsibility to make sure that people say yes to a grander purpose, because there is no difference in the method being used to influence or to manipulate. And I want to leave you with my personal motto on the topic of influence. For me, leadership is positive influence, and influence is something you deserve by being relevant for others. On that note, ladies, if you liked today, there is another workshop next week. I would love to welcome you. Otherwise, thank you very much for attending this workshop.